It is an honor today to have Peter Ruchti on the podcast. Peter's the visionary founder of Adept Plus, a leading firm in web marketing for home service providers, including radon and pool contractors. With a deep understanding of digital marketing and a commitment to innovation, Peter has positioned Adept Plus as a crucial ally for contractors who are seeking to enhance their online presence. Peter has shared his expertise as a speaker at the AARST conference, emphasizing his deep knowledge and thought leadership in the industry. Under his stewardship, Adept Plus has flourished, offering tailored marketing solutions that address the specific needs of the home services sector. His leadership and dedication to client success have established Adept Plus as a trusted partner for businesses navigating the digital landscape, continually pushing the envelope in service, innovation, and client satisfaction. Peter, I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
I have too.
Welcome to Catalytic Leadership, the podcast designed to help leaders intentionally grow and thrive. Here is your host, author, and leadership and executive coach, Dr. William Attaway.
Here's where I want to start. I'd love for you to share a bit of your story with our listeners, particularly around your journey and your development as a leader. How did you get started?
An interesting question. I had always, growing up, I had loved maybe inventing products or maybe not physical products, but in the web space. Whether it was in middle school, I loved like doing coding with my friends, and we would make all sorts of random things with no direction. But I think the beginning of the journey started in high school, where my uncle came to me and said, "Hey, Peter, I'm looking for a website. I know you know how to build them. Could you build one for me?" And I was like, "Well, sure, I'll try." He's like, "How much do you charge?" And I think I said $225. And about 100 hours of work later, I had built a website that I was super proud of. And long story short, he was like, "This is great. I've got two more for you." And then I had another two, and so that's actually what kickstarted kind of in high school, like my freelancing career. And eventually, several years later, because I was still in school, but in college, things were starting to gear up quite a bit more. We had a lot more clients coming in. We were winning more and bigger proposals. I should say that's relative, bigger than $225, but but that got me to the point to where I was able to afford my first hire, which was so exciting, because then we realized, hey, rather than having to do the, let's say, the sales work and then the design work and the strategy and all the pieces, I was able to bring in somebody to help with the development. And so I hired somebody part-time, eventually bringing it up to full-time. But that's where my journey really started as a leader, because I started to realize, hey, it's no longer just me doing kind of everything and staying up all night coding websites. Now this is, hey, now we're starting to form into a team, and one employee grew to two, and two kept growing. And so that's long story short, that's really where the beginnings of Adept Plus were.
Wow. Every story is a little bit different. And I imagine one of the things that you have had to learn to do as you have grown and added more and more team members is figuring out where you fit in, figuring out where you need to be involved and where you need to be more hands-on and where you need to learn to step back as the agency grows. How do you balance that?
Balancing that, or saying that implies that I am balancing it well. And I think that's a challenge that every leader has, because in some ways, you as the founder or the CEO are responsible for a huge amount of things, and things can ultimately roll back up to you. But at the same time, leadership is also about taking people and putting them in their best work environment so they can succeed and do what they do best. And they certainly cannot do that in an environment that's micromanaged but they still need support in. So I think that it's definitely something of a constant reminder of trying to remind myself on a daily basis, when should I be involved and when should I allow them to maybe either fail or succeed in that, and learn from that, and I try to show up as more of a coach to that rather than a doer to that.
What does that look like with clients? So often when somebody starts a business, the clients are kind of one to your personal involvement. You're the founder, and you being involved is a big deal to them. And then you start to hire people to help you with fulfillment. They don't see as much of you. How do you navigate that?
It took a lot of getting used to, because like you said, I knew every single person on a first name basis, and they knew who I was, and now we're at the size of where there's a lot of clients that I don't know, that I've never met, and granted, it's been a gradual progression, which has helped significantly. It wasn't just all of a sudden there's a cold change, but I think that in order to navigate that, there's had to be a lot of processes that I've had to put in place for me to feel at peace with that. Granted, I mean, it starts with trusting your people, because if you can't trust your people with these clients, that'll never ever work, because you'll have mistrust there, or that mistrust is correct and your clients aren't being treated the way that you expect them to be.
Yes.
I think that there's a lot of KPIs too that we can put into place that we've either have been implementing or are continuing to, especially related to feedback and results, because we know that at the end of the day, our clients come to us for those two things. One is good results, that their phones are ringing with new jobs, and two, that they had a great experience with us, that's professional, that's friendly, but they realize that they have a partner on their side to help them navigate this as if it's their own business. And so we've tried to really structure our programs and our procedures to make sure that we're rolling back to that data, to make sure that they are being delivered on those two things. And like I said, if those two things are the KPIs are going well, the chances of errors are very minimal.
It's so true. The systems and processes that you develop matter a tremendous deal. I love how you started there, though, is around trust. Trust is an incredibly valuable commodity on a team. And when you're the owner, if you start to lose trust in your team members, that's when you start, well, I'll just jump in here. I'll just put my hands in. I'll just get involved. And that can be the death knell for the effectiveness of a team. How do you resist that urge sometimes? How do you increase the trust level with your team and decrease that temptation to just jump in?
That's a really interesting question. Because it's not just that my trust with them, but they probably people will recognize if I'm not trusting them, they're going to see that, and they'll probably reciprocate that back to me.
That's right.
And so I know that if I were to just jump in and override something that they're doing, I can't expect them not to trust me, or it's gonna put them in a place of uncertainty, and it's not a predictable behavior. So some of it is that's been you learn the hard way, right? You you go into a situation, you realize, hey, something's broken. And after a while, you start to recognize, hey, if you're the one to always fix that, or if you're the one to always recognize the issues, it's exhausting. And
Yes.
your team is there to help you do that. And so that's one piece. Another one too that's helped me personally is just we've grown a lot. And so I do not have the bandwidth anymore to solve some of these issues that are this big. Because if this is going to apply to all of our clients, there's no way I could humanly, unless I could just take 3 months and go implement. There's just no way that I can do it by myself anymore, and that has helped me in so many ways. Not just for not overriding them, but realizing that this is about trust and teamwork. So yeah,
that's good. So many people in the entrepreneurial community start a business, for one of three reasons. They want time freedom, they want location freedom, and they want financial freedom. It's usually one or more of those. Sometimes it's all three. And as you have grown and as you have scaled and added more team members, this has provided more time freedom for you. You're not doing all the fulfillment. You're not doing everything yourself for every client. Like you said, you can't. It's scaled to a point now where that's not possible. What does freedom look like from where you're sitting today compared to maybe where you were 3, 4, 5 years ago?
I'm glad you contrast that, because that's exactly it. It changes over time. A long time ago, like when I was starting off, what freedom meant was you could pay your bills, which and you can maybe you can save a little bit of money, and that's what freedom looked like. For me right now, I think freedom looks like really I've been really feeling really blessed and fortunate in where I'm at, especially time wise, because I can spend time on the things that I want to do. And so I spend a lot of my time these days working in products to make just our programs better, implementing AI and things like that. And so I like to move around a lot, and so but I also no longer have to work 80 hours a week or even 40 hours a week like before. It's interesting, especially on the financial side, because now my bills are paid and a lot more. And so the freedom in that is, for me, is being able to use those funds to reinvest or to go faster on certain things, because now we can afford to bring in really talented and really smart people to make things better, rather than me feeling like I'm the only way to implement that. And
I like that.
And last, like you had mentioned, is location. It's great. We're all remote now. We got rid of our office, and so we truly can work remotely anywhere we want. But I think that it's for me, especially for a long time, it was on the financial side, having that freedom. But to me, time is it feels like every year it feels more and more important to me.
That's good. What does goal setting look like for you today?
Today, I'm thinking of probably somewhere between the neighborhood. I do still think quarter to quarter ahead, but I'm largely trying to think more big picture, just because our current quarters are usually pretty well baked before at the start of it. So I'm thinking both, hey, where can we be at 3 to 5 years in terms of rapid growth? So maybe some of that is number of clients, revenue, team size, but also team structure. Gets fascinating the bigger that we get. Although at the same time, it's interesting because this year I've actually spent quite a bit of time also only thinking a couple months ahead when it comes to things like AI implementation or changes to processes and things like that, because that world is changing so fast. And if just as soon as you implement it, OpenAI comes out with their next version, and so and that's a lot of fun. I do enjoy that, and so I'm trying to think of things as maybe production and capacity and product is let's focus on these next few months for implementing these fast things, but still trying to set that vision ahead of somewhere between 3 years out.
There was a time in the not so distant future where people talked in terms of, your 10, your 15, your 20-year goals. And I love how you just described how you're thinking, with quarters, up to 3. I think the pace of change has dramatically increased. And I think, you mentioned AI. I mean, the industry trends are so interesting to me. if with your perspective and being in this field now for as long as you have been, what are you seeing as far as industry trends right now? What do you see as what's coming? What are you playing around with and seeing, hey, let's see if this has any merit to it going forward?
And that alone could be a 2-hour conversation, but to try to
I know, right?
to try to summarize, I'll maybe give you some big picture examples.
Yeah.
And big picture could be in the next couple of years, and then some tactical day to day.
Yeah.
We're already seeing that using OpenAI for, let's say, a Google replacement. I think a lot of people are already recognizing it's far better. Rather than having to search for something, figure out, did I search the right thing, go through a bunch of pages, all those pages have ads. Right now, you can get that answer even faster and detailed to exactly that information you're looking for, and it's written just for you. And so it's that starts to think of, well, then how are consumers, with the context that we're serving a lot of home service providers or contractors. So then if homeowners hire those people, how are homeowners going to be using this instead of the what we know today of the normal Google search? And how do we start to future proof and get ahead of that?
That's good.
That certainly is one really big thing, and I think it's going to take a long time for behavior to change relatively, but I suppose compared to other big innovations in the past, this is going to look fast compared to that. On a day-to-day basis, we pretty well look at every single thing we do and figure out, can we streamline this with AI? There's two lenses that we look through with that. One is, can we take a process and make that faster? Or is there something that we couldn't do before that we can now do and serve as part of our program with AI? And it's important, I think, to look through those two lenses separately, because a lot of people will start to think about, how can I implement? They just get overwhelmed so quickly or you go down a rabbit trail. And I think it's important to stay disciplined on, hey, are we trying to accelerate the cycle time of a process, or are we trying to do something new? And that really can apply to every single thing we do, just about. SEO to Google Ads to content, not so much on the account management side, which is good because that's all about people and relationships and teamwork, but largely anywhere in production is where we're implementing those two principles.
I love that you made that distinction too, between things that can be automated and things that should not be. Because nurturing relationships, I think, is something that AI cannot really do like you and I do that. That's a very important piece, I think, of client retention. And as we think strategically around that as business owners, the human touch, the human connection is really important there. What does that look like in your world?
Well, is that question more of, how do we look at AI in implementing that, or how are we implementing human relationships into that, or both?
I'm thinking more the human relationships. Like, AI is definitely the hot topic, and we're all learning different ways to utilize that. But it's really easy to get caught in the shiny object and think that this is going to be the solution that's going to solve every problem. I think there are some things that the human connection cannot be replaced by a machine for. And I'm guessing in your business, as you lead your team, that's something that you talk about as well.
Absolutely. A common theme is that I find myself reminding myself and our account managers of is that with your relationship with your clients, part of the reason that they're using us is to help them navigate through different decisions. And sometimes that's AI related, and sometimes that's web page or something tactical related, and sometimes it's more business level and strategy related, and that can never be replaced, because sometimes there is the advice or wisdom side to it, But sometimes there's the understanding of that other person and knowing what they think is best and what you think is best, and trying to coach them through that. And
Yeah.
that's something that we need to ourselves to, or our clients need to get to that conclusion that AI cannot just tell you the answer and that's the solution.
That's good. That's so good. You know, you are a leader today at a different level than you were 5 years ago. And I think your team would probably agree with that. You know, and 5 years from now, your team, your clients, your business are going to need you to lead at a higher level still. How do you, Peter, stay on top of your game? How do you level up with the new leadership skills that your team and your clients and your business are going to need you to have in the years to come?
I find myself realizing that this is not just a accidental growth as a leader. It has to be so incredibly intentional, and then that is one through time spent, and whether that's I've got several different mentors that I work with on that, and that has been incredibly helpful. But
Nice.
especially because they can know when to coach you and when to say, hey, here's how you could maybe handle that better. Or
Yeah.
sometimes they know when to ask good questions and help you think through this. Um, Reading is also, or I say reading, but I'm more of an audiobook kind of guy. I really enjoy that. So you'll often find me going on a walk around the neighborhood listening to an audiobook for at least 20 or 30 minutes a day. And that's helped me dramatically because you can hear either different ways that people lead or different tactical ways or situations. And so between those two things, that's how I try to um, become a better leader and identify where areas either I could improve or where your strengths at and areas we need to hone into.
That's so good. I think that intentionality is absolutely critical. I think it's not one of those things where you're just going to wake up one day and say, "Oh, wow, I'm the leader that my team needs." I don't know how that happened, but here I am. It doesn't work like that. You know, we have to intentionally choose to grow. We have to choose to change because growth only happens on the other side of change. And I love that you've built those rhythms and those habits into your life, from seeking counsel from others, from mentors, to building in intentional times of growth. I love the walk around the neighborhood. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, that's helped me, especially after a day to reset. You know, that you get to the end
Yeah.
of the day and you have a lot of thoughts, and sometimes it's about a particular email or a text or
Mhm.
something like that, and that brings me back to the 10,000-foot view. Um, but you know what, another thought on that too is sometimes it starts at the beginning of the day as well, and making sure that your mindset is ready
Yeah.
for the day ahead, and that's also something. Before, what I would do is I'd get up, I'd dive right into email, I'd start getting to these things, and now every morning I say, you know, my mind isn't ready for that yet. I need to step back. I need to do some reading and thinking and prayer time. And by doing that, that not only helps me prepare for the day and set the tone, but it also gives me something throughout the day to come back to. And whether you've had a really great day and maybe accomplished a lot of cool things, and you still need that reminder to say, hey, you know, keep in mind this is the goal. We're going to be humble and we're going to step through this. Or if you're having a really challenging day and being able to go back and say, this is where we started, this is the pace we're going at, and we're going to
Mm.
continue to do our best through whatever challenges we're working through today.
That's great. Of all the books that you've been listening to as you walk around the neighborhood, is there one that stands out that you're like, hey, this book has really made a difference in how I'm thinking about something?
One of my more recent ones that I've read is The Coaching Habits.
Yeah.
That one's been great because it essentially forces you almost to do that by just asking the 5 different questions. Um,
Mhm.
and like we were talking about earlier, of it's gonna be so easy to just jump in and solve a problem, or in a meeting to say, I know exactly what to do to solve this. It forces you to step back and coach them through that. And that book is, I think helped me and probably through that helped my team dramatically this year.
I love that. So where do you go from here? Where do you want to go next? What's ahead for you?
Well, I at work, I think we've got a lot of exciting big projects that we've been working on between we're getting ready to roll out our app for our clients, which we've had a lot of work put into.
Nice.
We have some new really great relationships in the radon space that is going to really help us bring things to the next level, and I'm excited about that. At the same time, too, the radon space, which is where I think we're always going to be, and where our roots are now. But that industry is also only so big, and so we're getting ready for our next big move in other industries, and that's going to require both a lot of work, but I think we can take a lot of the things that we've learned, and between that and what we will learn, apply those two things together and move into more industries to be able to grow rapidly. So I think our team is really on board for that and excited about that. And that's especially probably what our big theme for next year is going to look like.
Peter, this has been such a fabulous conversation. I've so enjoyed the times that we have talked so far. And I love sharing your insights and your experience with other people. I think there's so many of our listeners who are going to benefit from this and are going to want to stay connected to you and continue to learn more about you and from you and about what you're doing. What is the best way for folks to connect with you?
Well, if you'd like to, you're welcome to I guess to email me anytime. My email is P as in Peter, then my last name Ruchti, RUCHTI at adaptplus.com. Feel free to drop me an email, especially if you ever need ideas around AI or you've got AI to share with me. That I'm always find that fascinating.
Outstanding. We'll have those links in the show note as well.
Right.
Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm so grateful for your expertise and the time and expertise and the insights that you've shared today. Thank you for your generosity.
Of course. No, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, and I hope we're able to help some listeners today.
Thanks for joining me for this episode today. As we wrap up, I'd love for you to do two things. First, subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you find value here, I'd love it if you would rate it and review it. That really does make a difference in helping other people to discover this podcast. Second, if you don't have a copy of my newest book, Catalytic Leadership, I'd love to put a copy in your hands. If you go to catalyticleadershipbook.com, you can get a copy for free. Just pay the shipping so I can get it to you, and we'll get one right out. My goal is to put this into the hands of as many leaders as possible. This book captures principles that I've learned in 20 plus years of coaching leaders in the entrepreneurial space, in business, government, nonprofits, education, and the local church. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn to keep up with what I'm currently learning and thinking about. And if you're ready to take a next step with a coach to help you intentionally grow and thrive as a leader, I'd be honored to help you. Just go to catalyticleadership.net to book a call with me. Stay tuned for our next episode next week. Until then, as always, leaders, choose to be catalytic.
Thanks for listening to Catalytic Leadership with Dr. William Attaway. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss the next episode. Want more? Go to catalyticleadership.net.